Hi there. This is Walto. What's up, my garlics? And all that. Um, this is just a video I've been wanting to make for a while. About just sort of a general discussion of my opinions on this stupid rhythm game modding community that I've been pouring, like, the last couple years of my life into. I figured that since I've spent so much time here, I may as well make a video just talking about it, because I have a lot that I kind of want to say, and even if no one watches this, it'll be nice and cathartic to get all that out. So this will just be a video where I don't really edit anything down, because I'm not an editor, and I don't want to bug any of the editor friends that I have about this video, because I'm sure they're busy, they have better things to do, and this probably works better as just an unfiltered discussion type of thing. I want to make it clear that this video is not going to be about any, like, controversial individuals in the community, because that's just something that is, one, beyond the scope of what I want to talk about, and two, just something I have very little interest in discussing. And secondly, I don't want any of these complaints to come off like I'm coming after anyone. I think what does upset me the most about the community as it stands is the sort of lack of creativity, but not just because I want endless free entertainment, obviously. I think that this community has a ton of potential and just, like, absolutely crazy talent just around every corner, but what we're seeing is that I feel like one or two original thoughts happen per month in this in the space, which is just gravely disappointing, because I mean, I think people have grown tired recently of the whole idea of trends, and I have struggled to sort of get a read on whether that's due to the fact that people just want more free entertainment, or if it's for the same reason that I'm frustrated with it, because I think that just some crazy cool and much easier to respect stuff could be coming out of the modding community right now. But people instead kind of latch on to the same thing for just weeks at a time until they make themselves sick of it, which isn't bad on its own, but I think that a lot of like stuff that falls under the umbrella of, like, fan mods and stuff just doesn't really inject its own creativity into it. I think some of the coolest things I've ever seen are people taking a concept that already exists in a mod and putting their own spin on it, but when people essentially just copy what something did in hopes to obtain, like, some level of popularity, or just for fun even, but I know people can do a lot better than just copying something for fun in this community, so I'm not willing to just excuse it as, like, ineptitude, because I've seen what people can do, and it's way better. But it's just kind of disappointing to see no creativity injected into that whatsoever. Or worse yet, seeing it, like, boiled down into something that doesn't even really represent the original source material anymore. Like, you know, I think the easiest thing to pick at right now, or, well, maybe not right now, but recently, is when people took the whole $17 mod and just boiled it down to what, Jersey Club and Gradients. I don't know, I just found that really brain dead, for lack of a better word, and really uninspired. And that kind of bugged me, because, like I said, a ton of potential can be derived from all the insane amount of talent in this community, but it's just not. There's so much cool stuff, but there could be infinitely more. Another problem I have, though, and another reason that these trends get tired so quickly, is that I think the amount of talent in the community is a double-edged sword, because it's kind of at a critical mass right now. Like, that's why things get run into the ground so quickly. There's just so many people that you may feel like, oh, everyone in the Friday Night Funkin community is making a fan song or whatever for this mod right now, but no, it's on the whole probably a pretty small percentage of people that do that sort of thing. It's just that percentage is still so many people that it starts to feel like, you know, this is all we're doing right now. But no, you look and you see, oh, look how many people aren't doing this, and you realize just the sheer scope of the community, because it already feels like there's a ton of popular people in the community, but then you gotta realize that the amount of people that are just in the community and have little to no recognition is like tenfold at least. Like, just go on, that's what I've been doing recently. I've been just going on Game Banana and seeing what's on there, and there is just a ridiculous amount of stuff, not even counting the reskins and stuff, because honestly, I don't consider those legit mods in the spirit of what the community's trying to do. Like, you know, Twiddle Finger, but it's my original character or something like that. But that's neither here nor there. You go on Game Banana, you see just like not hundreds, but like dozens of mods that you've just never heard of before, with these up-and-coming composers that are probably never going to get anywhere. And they would have, like, a couple years ago when people weren't so keen on tearing things apart. That's another huge problem I have. I think people are way too heavy-handed with criticism now. Like, I think it's because largely the fan base is on Twitter, who has, like, the Twitter as a social media platform has a culture that just, like, thrives off of absolutely, like, dunking on something. So it's really easy for something that people consider bad to just go viral, for lack of a better word. And I think that's really upsetting, because, like, a couple years back, basically, I consider it like the pre-Sonic.exe mod era. I think people were way more receptive to just letting people be beginners, barring the occasional welcome old. Fuck. Which, you know, I thought this, one of the things I really loved about the community back in the day is that it let me and many others kind of take time to flourish as good musicians without just being absolutely ripped apart. But now, if you so much as, like, touch the public eye while you're not an incredible musician right now, which, frankly, I'm not, so I'm lucky that I've never, like, broken into that, you are liable to just get absolutely shredded, which I think is ridiculous. And nobody's safe from it. Like, if someone who's generally considered a good musician makes a bad song, they'll still face, like, pretty insane backlash. I think it's nuts. Like, there's just no reason for it. I think it's almost inhuman the amount that people will just absolutely dunk on someone for making something that's considered bad. I think, like, I get that the quality standards have increased by so much now, but I think I would like to see the community kind of take a step back and try to empathize before kind of ripping on someone who's very clearly a beginner, or just, you know, not making something perfect. It doesn't matter if they're a beginner or not. I don't think you should dunk on someone's art so heavily. I mean, criticism is fine, and even just disliking something is fine, but there's a line between that and being actively antagonistic that I think people are just kind of willing to ignore. And I think that's the biggest part of why I'm kind of drifting away from the community, because it's just so much more rewarding to go work on literally anything else, where I feel like even if it's just for a small group of people, they'll all be very receptive to it, and it doesn't feel like either throwing something into the void or, you know, risking just being absolutely torn to shreds for no good reason, and not even gaining anything from it. Because if people are rude to me, but they supply some level of good criticism, that's perfectly fine. I might not have the thickest skin in the world, but I can handle it. And I think that probably goes for most people. But I don't know, when there's no positive to it and it's just mean-spirited, it's like, what are we doing, man? And I notice a lot of this criticism comes from people who aren't really making things. Well, I call it criticism. A lot of this, you know, bad faith tearing things down comes from people who have never really created anything. And I'm not saying those people have no room to talk. I think the beauty of a lot of art, and music especially, that's the lens from which I come at things, is that it's incredibly subjective, and beyond a base level of, like, technical understanding of, you know, basic theory and just not having harmonies that sound universally bad, I think that music is pretty much entirely up to a matter of opinion, which is beautiful, because you can make a song, and regardless of what people would consider the objective quality on a wide scale, that could be someone's favorite song, like, ever. And I like that, but I think it can also be someone's, you know, the worst thing they ever heard, and they really dislike it. That's also fine, but when you're just going out of your way to make that known, it starts to feel like you're just kind of trying to actively antagonize creators for no good reason. For the, you know, the unforgivable crime of making a song you didn't really like that much, or something. I really wish that if I ever did something like this again, I will absolutely try to get an artist's perspective as well, and perhaps a coder or charter too, because I'm coming at this from a very music-focused lens naturally, and I would love to hear their thoughts on how much of this applies. You know, if you're an artist that's in the Friday Night Funker, FNF, Funkin' FNF community, feel free to reach out to me in the comments below, or, like, you know, in my DMs. I'm Walto Music pretty much everywhere, so if you want to have a chat about it, I'm always open to that. Because I think that artist perspectives are extremely valuable on this front too. Shoot. and I just have not spoken to them enough, to be entirely honest with you. I also, one more thing that I really did want to talk about, I didn't have it when I first planned this video, which was a few days ago. I didn't really have this on the docket, but like, I think it was last night, I saw a tweet from, I think it was the creator of Scratch and Melody, actually, that they were glad that modding didn't take off for their game too quickly, because they wanted the game to develop its own identity first, so people could, you know, make mods out of love for the game and not out of the love for, you know, just modding. And I think that was true of Friday Night Funkin' at first. I realized when I read that that's kind of a big part of what the community has lost that I really loved. And granted, I think now that the game's getting updates again, this will probably turn around because people have kind of rediscovered what they enjoyed about it. But I just found it very disappointing that kind of at the start of when things were coming out, we had a lot of weeks that were sort of meant to follow the spirit of the base game. I mean, it's debatable how well they did that, but they were made out of genuine enjoyment and sparked creativity from the original game. Whereas I think now it's the modding community is just kind of feeding back into itself and coming up with all these like ideas that just wouldn't make sense to anyone who hasn't been in the modding community for ages. Like, I get that the original game has horror elements, but pretty much anything that is horror related in the community now stems directly from the Sonic.exe mod and wouldn't make sense outside of it. I just don't feel like mods are, on the whole, paying that much tribute to the base game, and I guarantee if this video somehow gets popular, I'm gonna have people in the comments pointing out every individual mod that does it, but I don't know, it's not something I see as much anymore. None of it feels like it's being done in the spirit of like, oh, this is a week that I could see being in the base game. It's more just like, this is a highly sensationalized thing that I made. And that's fine in its own way, but I think things are so far removed from the general vibe of the base game now that the modding community is sort of eroding the game's identity. Like, I don't really care that much at the end of the day, but from an outsider perspective, imagine you have, you know, you've heard of Friday Night Funkin' once or twice, you've seen some stupid mods on your page, but you've never actually looked into it, and then one day you just kind of wake up and you decide, oh, you know, I want to check this out. And then you go to check it out, you play the base game, and then you're like, I don't know, I feel like I would be really confused, because I would, god damn it, I would be like, this doesn't even really resemble anything that I was seeing, other than like this stupid blue-haired guy is there, and there's the arrows on the screen. Because I would think, oh, it's a game about, like, it's a horror rhythm game that's about memes and internet culture and has a lot of like video game crossovers. Because that's what it feels like the identity, that feels like the identity that the modding community has given the game now. Whereas it was something so interesting and unique before that people just have not even attempted to capture for a long time. And I'm not saying like, oh, every mod needs to try to be the base game. I really hope that this isn't misconstrued as that, because if you have your own super creative vision, then like go nuts. But if you are making a mod that's just not even really trying to imitate the style of the original game, nor is it about anything original, it's just like you inserted songs from, or not songs necessarily, but you inserted characters from popular franchise, then I don't know, where's the artistic merit to that? It's just another one of those more overarching trends, not like the same thing as like, oh, everyone started making Jersey Club for a minute until Biddle 3 said white people can't make it anymore, and then they stopped. It's like, you know, the general formula that the mods and community have fallen into. Which is just sort of, it squashes a lot of the potential for cool and original creations, just because right now I think anything that gets popular, you're only going to find interesting original content in the crevices between media taken from a franchise and media that's literally lifted entirely from the original game. I think that what I want to see is more mods that try to capture the spirit of the base game and don't just feel like sensationalized things inspired exclusively like by the modding community. And I also want to see just more originality in general, not because I'm concerned about the base game's identity sort of staying intact to some degree. I know the devs probably aren't concerned about that, but I am, because I want this game to be successful, not just for what it not just for what it allows fans to create, but for what it is. Because the whole reason it did catch on originally is that it has a really interesting style. It's eye-catching. It's, you know, it's fun. The music's pretty varied and fresh, I would say. And while I feel like I, until recently, had kind of lost the plot on, like, why I enjoyed the game in the first place, I recently just kind of took a whole revisit to it, and I discovered things that I never would have even appreciated before if I hadn't gained the sort of, like, music and art sensibilities that I have from being in this community for so long. And I almost wish I could experience the game blind with those sort of sensibilities that I've gained, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on. Like, the art style was something that really caught my eye, because it's I've seen it so much, it's almost like looking at the wall. I don't know, I tune it out almost, but it really is just like a nice thing to look at, and it's very fun and inspired. And the music too, like Kawaii Sprite makes really great music. You know, I enjoy that it's a game that has a good soundtrack that doesn't have like a bunch of other game music influences. That's something I'm trying to break out of. I mean, you're allowed to be influenced by game soundtracks, obviously. It is a genre, no matter how little people want to believe that. But I think being inspired by, like... I think it's fresh to hear an indie composer this decade who isn't inspired by the works of Toby Fox in some way. Because I feel like, especially younger people right now, this is sort of a tangent, but I feel like especially people who are younger and getting into video game music composing, I'm guilty of this too. They're just pretty much all inspired by Toby Fox in some way, shape, or form. Which, you know, not a bad thing, just kind of another instance of, in the context of the Funkin community specifically, just another instance of things converging on a single point because of trends. So I hope that the base game can retain its identity separate from mods, because I know the game being easy to mod is part of the reason it got popular, but it's just such a good product on its own, and I want that to be kind of appreciated. And like I said, I want more creativity. There's so many people in the community that I think if even 1% of them decided that they were going to wake up and make something interesting and original, the community would have just a massive wave of new stuff. And there's so many talented people that I want to see doing things other than just kind of trying to ride the coattails of other creative people. And it doesn't even have to have crazy high production quality. I kind of hate that that's the standard we've arrived at, because I love jank, man. I think the lower the production quality of a mod is, the more exciting it is to discover, like, that one really catchy song, or that one really neat looking sprite, or like even a cool bit of writing. I feel like writing is just a very underexplored thing in mods. Yeah, that's why I've been, like, digging through Game Banana a lot recently. I just want to find something obscure that, like, you know, isn't necessarily great, but has one aspect that I'm really impressed by. Like, I found just, you know, a couple songs. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. One was, like, some guy's OC mod, and, like, when I tried to ask the composer, he didn't credit the composer of the song for, like, on a specific song basis. Oh yeah, start doing that, because I have had a ton of trouble trying to find composers to check out more of their work when I like one song in a mod, and there's 5 composers credited, and none of them have specific song credits, so do that. Anyways, I, like, went to the comments of his own YouTube video where he uploads a playthrough of the mod, and he, like, got really annoyed at me because I misremembered the name of the song. I don't know. That's neither here nor there, but be nice, I guess, when people are trying to give attention to your thing. But yeah, I found a song that I really enjoyed. And, it might have been, like, a little tropey, but it's just, I like hearing people do good work, and I think the more people are encouraged to do good work, the more they'll branch out and do interesting stuff, as long as their audience isn't begging them for one particular thing. Which is, yeah, that's another thing. I think people like to boil down creators' identities to just the most popular work they worked on. And, like, it's okay to recognize someone for, you know, oh, this guy made this song from Versus Impostor, or something like that. but I don't know. It just makes me sad for people, because like I have my D-Sides Kaioken, which I guarantee you not a single person that's still enjoying my work found me because of that. Because I don't do anything that's even like remotely related to that anymore. But it would suck just being the guy who made that, especially because it's like kind of mediocre. So I feel for people who are just, oh, this is the person who made that, and nothing else, as if they can just kind of never create anything of that level of substance again. That's another thing I just want to encourage people to do. If you are someone who you really like a song from some Friday Night Funkin' mod, especially like an older one, check out what the composer's up to, because they're probably still doing stuff, I would like to think, even if it's not Funkin' stuff. Yeah, that also, I think we gotta encourage people to start doing more stuff. How do I phrase this? Start giving people an audience for, if you really like their work, go check out their non-Funkin' work, because I guarantee you there's a high chance that you will also like that work. And I also guarantee you that they would like the attention. And don't, like, you know, go making any comparisons to their other work from FNF. It's just like, leave it be. Go appreciate their other work as well, because you liked something they made, and you will probably like another thing that they made too. Because, I mean, I have my favorite project I've ever worked on, the soundtrack for Purchase Takeout on Scratch, which was a game that my friend's little brother made, that ended up being just one of the most enjoyable projects I've ever made from like a creative standpoint. And I mean, I'm still working on it. And that has a much smaller audience than anything else I've ever worked on. So yeah, go appreciate other people's other work, because I guarantee you there's a lot of cool stuff in there. Yeah, I think we've arrived at the conclusion of what I've had to say. I'm sorry if this video was like crazy repetitive or anything. I'm sure it was. I'm not used to recording stuff like this. If you are perhaps interested in something else like this, you know, let me know. General feedback and participation in the discussion down in the comments of this video are extremely appreciated, because I don't want this to just be something that people idly listen to. I want to open a conversation, and I'm entirely receptive to if people, you know, differ in their opinions from mine, because you know, none of what I said today is stuff that I feel like I could never have my mind changed about. Yeah, so just to kind of recap, if any of you for some reason watched this video and then just skipped to the end of it because you got bored, I would not blame you. This is probably kind of boring to watch. One, I think people following trends sucks, not because I just want more free entertainment, but because I think people are kind of squandering their creative potential on not adding anything to those creations that people are making. Because it's absolutely beautiful to see someone injecting their own creativity into something, but that's just typically not what people do. Secondly, the community is at like an absolute critical mass. A lot of the problems that it has are in no small part due to just the fact that there's so many creators in the community. And like, it's nice that there are a bunch of creators because you get a lot of content, but people are so willing to jump on and follow trends that it's really, they get oversaturated very quickly. That's the word I was looking for. And thirdly, just in general, I think people need to respect creators a lot more in the space, because people are making essentially free content for you, and I think a lot of people, especially those who don't create anything, are just sort of really willing to tear things apart. And I don't really know why that is. I've never been in the shoes of, or well, I haven't been in the shoes of someone who plays mods but doesn't make them for a long time, so I can't really empathize with that. So I don't know, maybe it makes sense to them, but I just think it's really immature to absolutely dog on something and not provide proper criticism, not even explain what you don't like about it, even if you don't really have the know-how to explain. Just do your best. And I guess some of the worst faith criticism results from that, but also be upfront about not knowing what your wheel, or not knowing anything about what you're commenting on from like a creation perspective. And check out people's other work. Go listen to the Purchase Takeout soundtrack. It's on my channel if you want to check out my work. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're a fan of my music, but if not, every other video on this YouTube channel is something music related. So go check it out. I would really, really appreciate it. And if you've sat through this entire video, which I'm guessing you have, thank you so much. I really appreciate you just listening to my unscripted thoughts about this thing that I poured so much of my time into. Yeah. Also, somebody make a Wild Guns Friday Night Funkin' mod. Thank you. Have a great day.